The University of South Florida and RoomPact presents ResEd 2.0, Innovative Engagement for Student Success and Academic Excellence.
Hi everybody, my name is Julie Leos. I'm the Director for Residential Education at the University of South Florida in Tampa, Florida. Welcome to ResEd 2.0, a four-part webinar series dedicated to residential student success and academic excellence. You see, as scholar practitioners in a residential setting, we are called to share with others that our laser focus and commitment to student success is a part of a new understanding of what it means to educate as housing professionals. Some might call it a new approach or a new lens. A residential education goes beyond the constructs of a building, of a bed, of a lounge. You see, residential education is what remains when those things are no longer available to students and those things are no longer a part of their life. The learning they had, the commitment they made to themselves, the connections that they made with others, all of those things that are made possible because of educators like you. That is a residential education. Now, you might be here because you want to strengthen your residential curriculum. You might be here because you are wanting to strengthen your ties with faculty or other academic partners. You might want to also learn a little bit more about how to assess your program. Whatever the reason is that you are here today, we are so happy that you're here and glad that you chose this space, this community, to enhance those skills. Now, I can't wait to learn with you today, and with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to our series committee. Thank you.
The University of South Florida and RoomPact presents ResEd 2.0, Innovative Engagement for Student Success and Academic Excellence.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to ResEd 2.0, Innovative Engagement for Student Success and Academic Excellence, live from the University of South Florida.
We are so glad you are able to join us virtually as we all navigate this new remote world together.
Now more than ever, our role as educators is so important. When planning the series to be remote, that was our guiding principle.
No matter where our students may be, we must do our best to support student success and academic excellence within residential education.
We hope that during your time with us today and throughout this series, you are able to learn new ways to enhance opportunities to foster student success within your institutions.
Although we can't meet in person, we hope that you are also able to connect with other professionals and share ideas throughout the stream.
Use the chat function to ask questions, comment on anything you hear today, and share your knowledge as an expert in the field.
Student success is a shared responsibility, and we hope that you discover something today that will help you on that journey.
You can find more information about upcoming presentations, the presenters themselves, and even the whole series found on our website here below.
We will also be recording and hosting the stream today thanks to our friends at RoomPact, and we would like to thank them for being a part of our team.
If you liked what you learned, share it with colleagues and come back for the rest of our programs.
So sit back, relax, and put on your favorite pair of professional attire sweatpants and enjoy today's live stream.
This is ResEd 2.0, Innovative Engagement for Student Success and Academic Excellence.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to ResEd 2.0, Innovative Engagement for Student Success and Academic Excellence, live from the University of South Florida. My name is Nicole Onofrio, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I will be moderating today's webinar on faculty and campus partner engagement. I see we have folks checking in, so if you can introduce yourselves and where you're coming from in our chat function, that would be great. And now I'm going to introduce our panelists. Lucky for us, we got a nice mix of some of our faculty and residents, our LLC advisors, and of course, our program director of these wonderful initiatives. And so first we have Anthony Iannelli, who is our pre-health advisor and adjunct instructor at the University of South Florida. We also have Neldy C. Nunez, our program director of academic initiatives and living learning communities here at the University of South Florida. And we have Dr. Tangela Searles, who is an instructor and an undergraduate director in the Department of Women's and Gender Studies at the University of South Florida. As we all navigate this new remote world together, there are a few housekeeping items that I want to go over quickly before we get started. We will be recording and hosting the stream today thanks to our friends at RoomPact, and we want to thank them for being a part of our team and for all their contributions. Please continue to use the chat function to ask thoughtful questions, comment on anything that you hear today, and share the knowledge that you have as an expert in the field. The presenters will be reviewing the chat throughout the webinar, and as time permits, we will answer the questions below. Any verbal or chat comments will be part of the recording, so we just want that to be on the record. And for those panelists participating, please keep your microphone muted to reduce background noise. So I think everyone can see everyone now, is that correct? Sweet. So yeah, continue to check in as you are joining us, and we are going to get started here with our first question. So if everyone can just, again, share your name, your role, and your connection to our series today.
Okay, well, good afternoon. Buenas tardes, everyone. Thank you for joining this amazing team at USF. As Nicole shared, thank you, Nicole, for being a wonderful moderator today. My name is Neody Carolina Nunez, and I've been serving residential education at USF. This is going to be my incoming 6th year at USF. I serve as the program director for academic initiatives and living learning communities. And in this role, I have the wonderful privilege to work with amazing faculty and academic partners, including 6 faculty and residents, about 20 faculty fellows, and 25 academic partners that support our 10 living learning community programs. That's a little bit about me, and you'll learn more about our program as our series continues today and on July 1st.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Tangela Searles. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am an instructor and the undergraduate director in the Department of Women's and Gender Studies here at USF. And I'm also faculty fellow for our Stonewall Suites Living Learning Community and faculty in residence in Summit Hall. And so I've been involved with housing and residential education officially for about 4 years now, but unofficially for longer than that. And I just really appreciate the work that they do as a unit, as a department, and I am happy to be here sharing experiences and sharing space with y'all today. So thank y'all for having me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Iannelli Jr. I'm a pre-health advisor here at USF, and also I'm a partner with the Rising Health Professionals Living Learning Community. So we started that about a couple years ago, and honestly, one of the best decisions that me and the team has ever made with this collaboration with housing. It gave me a great opportunity to have another part of the job outside of, just advising students. I've been able to work in this community and loved every moment of it. So thank you all for joining us today, and I look forward to connecting with all of you.
Awesome. Thank you all for reintroducing yourselves. I don't see any questions popping up just yet, so we'll go ahead and get started with some of our own over here. But as questions pop up, please feel free to throw them in the chat and we will bump them up. So first question is, what strategies or incentives should residential education staff consider when inviting faculty to collaborate on student engagement efforts?
I'll start. I'd say I don't really think that there has to be like a huge number of like large incentives, because for the most part, faculty is just interested or are interested in student success anyway. But I would say if I had to give like some specific suggestions, so for me, for instance, I'm a teaching faculty, so I teach a lot of courses, and a lot of the courses aren't necessarily in fields of my research interest. So I teach Intro to Women's and Gender Studies, which is like a large introductory course, literature by women of color, which is more in my research area, but where I really shine is Black feminisms, which I don't get to teach every semester, or don't get to teach a lot of sessions of. So I'd say reaching out to faculty who don't get to teach in their specialty areas as often as they would like to teach in their specialty areas, for opportunities to engage students outside of the classroom would be a nice incentive. And then in terms of like, I guess, tangible types of incentives, t-shirts are always my favorite, water bottles, which you'll see me using today. Any kind of swag I love, so that's what I would say.
I can add to that. Definitely the relationship with faculty members that you can maybe establish from the beginning is very helpful. But I know that when I've been able to have faculty join us, I know a big incentive was just being in a different environment outside of the classroom and getting to teach and, you know, really engage with students on maybe a more personal level than maybe that faculty member could in the big lecture hall. So I know that's good. And to add to what Dr. Searles said, drinks are good, food especially, that's always helped me out a lot to get faculty to join us at our events.
One thing or a few things that I would add from my lens directing the FIR and FF program is ensuring that faculty feel competent. And what I mean by that is that if you think about us going into academic affairs, walking into a space where language is distinctively different than the language that we use day to day, a huge incentive is just a level of comfort and preparedness to be successful. So as I do these type of presentations at some of our collaborative organizations nationally or locally, I always like to share a huge incentive is them feeling prepared for the work that you're asking them to engage in. And Anthony talked about this regarding the relationship. Relationship building is huge. I would say a huge incentive to sustain the relationship is show up to things that they're doing on your campus as much as you can. As you are navigating just recruiting faculty for your programs, asking about their pedagogy, asking about their research interests, like Dr. Searles talked about, and showing up as an educated professional who also has scholarly practice and academic passions of your own. Faculty love to engage around conversations, not just with students, and I think we forget that. And a huge incentive is them feeling that they have community of professionals outside of the academic world that they navigate every single day. More tangible incentives that I can talk about regarding our program is if you have housing spaces, given this whole situation with COVID, some of our housing programs may not be at capacity with regards to occupancy. This is a great time for you to consider what are the financial incentives of providing an on-campus apartment to a faculty member at your university. If you know that you will have spaces, a huge incentive of our faculty in residence is that their commute is less than 10 minutes because they're living right on our campus. And understanding that, you know, that comes with a lot of negotiation because they're living their life, their comfort of not being on campus behind. But for many of them, having access to students in the way that we've had access as residential education professionals beyond 5 p.m. or beyond classroom times is a huge incentive. My experience with faculty tells me that they really want to get to know the entire student, the whole student. And a great way to do that is by immersing themselves in the student environment. If financial challenges are not at your forefront, you can also consider a meal plan. Obviously, you can do a small meal plan. That's what we do with our faculty fellows. They do get some dining dollars, and we use that strategically so that they can go to lunch and meals with our students who live on campus. If you have the opportunity to have a little bit more of a budget, you can also consider incentives towards their research projects. or explaining to faculty that through these conversations with students and these informal interactions, it could lead to collaborations where faculty can then like recruit students to work on their research projects. And that's another win-win, because many of our students are looking for research opportunities or faculty mentorship opportunities to then, request a recommendation letter or understand more on their career path. So those are the three things that I would talk about, is really incentivize it by you getting to know them and them getting to know you so they feel comfortable. Understanding what financial opportunities you have, whether it's a space on campus or dining, and then really highlighting the opportunities to connect with students in ways that it can also support their pedagogy and their research.
Absolutely. Thank you all for sharing from the experts themselves. I definitely would like to comment that to the community building especially. I am so impressed by the amount of care our faculty show for the student experience, especially living in. And so I'm shocked that that is as big of an incentive for them as it is. But it is hard to have genuine conversations sometimes in those large lecture styles. So it's definitely a driving force, at least here at USF. Our next question is, if you can describe your relationship with academic advisors, faculty, and or residential education staff, what strategies can you provide to ensure effective collaboration between these three components of a living learning community or an AI academic initiatives program? And I can repeat that if we need to. It was a little long.
So I can talk a little bit about the relationship with academic advisors and partners and faculty, and then I welcome Anthony to talk a little bit more about his relationship with our team, and the same thing for Dr. Searles. So on our end, some of the strategies that we've utilized is affecting training or onboarding opportunities that you can offer as you're connecting. Again, I can't go back to the preparedness factor enough. So one thing that we're really famous for in residential education is acronyms, right? The RA, the RLC, the AC, the ARLC, the GA, and faculty are like, that's alphabet soup. What do you mean by that? So one of the things that we like to do to sustain this collaboration is every summer when we have our traditional training program, we create a faculty and residential education meet and greet workshop. And language is important to faculty. Many of them have been at the university for many years. So considering something, calling it a training or a workshop, or workshop versus training, sometimes speaks more their language, because they might be wondering, well, I already know how to teach. What is it that you're going to train me on? But when you call it a meet and greet or a workshop, they already psychologically are setting themselves up to say, oh, there's some kind of interaction. There's going to be some relationship building that happens. So that's one thing that we do. And we ensure that we provide our faculty and pro staff attendees something very simple, like a contact sheet with people's emails. You can include fun facts. And those contact sheets, when distributed at these workshops, provide a good opportunity for icebreakers. So it kind of lessens a little bit of the awkwardness of a first-time residence lab coordinator right at our grad school having the director of undergraduate research at their table at the university. So that is one huge strategy that we've utilized for our faculty. In addition to, in my role, I have one-on-ones with our faculty and residents. Pre-COVID, we were meeting pretty regularly, once every 2 weeks. And since we've been remote, sometimes it's just a text, sometimes it's an email, or even something informal, a quick phone call. Well, that strategy is important because you want to sustain the relationship by being in tune to their experience. And having, even if it's a formal or informal agenda for those one-on-ones is key. I always like to ask, if it's faculty and residents, you want to ask first and foremost, how is your facility? Is there any work orders that I need to follow up on? Because, it's basic. When you think about it, it's just basic survival, right? Like if your home is good and you're living on campus, then everything else is going to work out. Asking about what they're teaching this semester. What is your course load looking like? Is there anything that we need to negotiate? We planned X number of events for the semester during this month, as you are teaching the students or picking up another course load or assisting in your department, is there anything that we need to negotiate? So communication is the #1 strategy. You want to be in tune with them. You want to be present and available and accessible to them as your faculty. And the same rule applies if you have faculty fellows that don't live on. Create opportunities to come together with them. With this situation with COVID, you can create like just a touch base over Microsoft Teams if you wish, just to see how they're doing. The piece with our academic partners, so I mentioned we have 10 living learning communities. We work with about 25 academic partners. And again, we do a robust living learning community training for all of our academic partners and our professional staff. We also then bring our academic partners for living learning community resident assistant training about 3 weeks later. And that strategy has been successful because it does build and rapport with everyone working with the living learning community. At that time, for us, given our model, we share Dr. Inkla's best practice model and really talk about what are the different components of a best practice program in the living learning community context and who owns each piece of it. That is a huge strategy because you set the accountability tone at the beginning during training, and then you can revisit. Last but not least, with our academic advisors who serve as the living learning community partners, we host a monthly living learning community council meeting. So me and my team lead these meetings and invite all 20-something advisors to join us. And just having them on your agenda, asking what's going on in their college, sharing updates and providing transparency from residential education has been huge because you start to build trust and it continues that relationship. And then the last strategy that I like to share is that we also have advisory board meetings. So each living learning community meets just with their academic advisor, LLC coordinator, the RA, and the hall director of that community with a member of my team or myself. And it's a touch-based meeting every month to see how the community is going. Lastly, I would say, again, with the faculty, a huge strategy that also incentivizes is at the end of each year, when we do like a touch base with our faculty and how they're doing, we tend to gather data and then show it as a spotlight. So our faculty remain connected to us because we're showing the hardcore impact that they're having on the student experience. It also provides them an opportunity to show to their colleges, deans, and academic departments the work that they're doing within. And for faculty who are not tenure track yet and are building their portfolio, that's a huge incentive. Or faculty who are new at the university who are attempting to establish a professional identity as a faculty member, that is another huge strategy and point of retention for your program, because now you're rewarding them for the work that they're doing. So those are some of the pieces that we've been working hard on with regards to advisors and faculty. So I'll turn it over to either Tangela or Anthony to talk a little bit about how they perceive our department.
Hello. The only other thing I would add to what Nelly has already said is if you haven't already established some signature programs, which I'm pretty sure most folks do have signature programs. So for us, we do house calls among many, but house calls is the one that stood out to me because that was my very first taste of housing and residential education as a department before I even became involved as a faculty fellow or faculty in residence. We have them annually, and what we do is folks from housing and residential education invite us to a nice dinner, and we have dinner first and we kind of go over the packet that they are providing us with that has all of the resources in it for that upcoming school year. And then we get our assignments where we go into the actual living spaces, and it's held in one of a few ways. The ones that I've always done have been panel styles, but I do think that some people go door to door to have those conversations with students. And then we get a chance to hear what the students have to ask us or hear their comments and concerns about the upcoming school year. The only thing I would say about house calls in terms of how we do it annually, but I think that if we were to do it like twice a year, it would really be, I know it would be a lot of work on housing and residential education, but I think it'll be great. So those kind of opportunities where you get faculty in the living spaces of the students to kind of, I guess, humanize us in a way. I think those are good. And each living learning community, ours specifically, which is Stonewall Suites, have recurring or kind of signature programs. We did Queer Tour of Tampa Bay last fall, which was the second time that we've done it within the second year that we've been a living learning community. And then there was Decolonizing Fitness with Rooted Resistance that we do in the spring. So having those signature programs that you can build upon and then improve each year, I think helps to strengthen that relationship between all of the stakeholders within the living learning communities. And even if it's not a living learning community that you're kind of putting programming on for, I think having those kind of go-to things that you can continue to refine is helpful. What else? And then to Nelly's point about the board meetings, those are extremely important too. Definitely utilize the time that you're meeting as best as possible, because it's hard to get 5 or 6 folk, or however many people are on your committee together at one time in the month. So we just make sure that our agenda is set and our tasks are in place so that we can continue to move forward. So that would be the only thing that I would add.
Yes, for me, in my first 2 years working with housing, the relationship with housing was very important. It helped me really understand the role and just understand how everyone works together as a team. As an advisor, which some of you in here might be, the main part of the job is one-on-one with students in your office or now virtually. And that's the main part of the job. But with working in housing, there's events, programming, and just a bunch of different aspects with having a living learning community that I know for me personally, I didn't know too much about coming into the experience. So having the initial training that was mentioned, the meetings, weekly or monthly meetings, helped a lot, because all of us work in one way to help the students, whether it's the RA, the hall directors, resident directors, and then the advisors of programming. Like, we all work together for the students. So it's important to understand everyone's roles and really know what each other does to make sure that we're helping out the student in the best way possible. And I do agree with Dr. Searles. House Calls is a great event, and that's really how I first really became introduced to housing, with doing house calls and working as an advisor and advising students, in their residence halls. So that was great. And that's something that I look forward to, and I've built into the LLC that I have by doing that at least a couple times a semester with our students.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, we love house calls, especially us communities that don't necessarily have attachments to LLCs. We appreciate any opportunities that we can get with our faculty members and faculty fellows. Dr. Schultz, did you have anything to add? I see you're not muted.
Thank you, Nicole. I did want to add one thing. I meant to say this earlier, but both Anthony and I were nominated for Academic Partners of the Year for USF, and Anthony won that award. And Anthony and I are friends like offline, and Nelly too. So I feel comfortable with saying this, but I told him that if I had to lose that honor to anybody, I was glad that it was him, because Anthony really does a phenomenal job, y'all. So I am honored to just be on the panel with both of them and just soaking it all in. So yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Awesome.
Sorry, Nicole. I wanted to add something regarding the award. When we talked about incentives, that is a very easy incentive. All of you in housing probably have an end of the year celebration or banquet. One of the things that we did when we brought the team together about 5 years ago and revamped our program was we created a Living Learning Community of the Year Award and an Academic Partner of the Year Award. So to the earlier question about incentives, just kind of having that at your banquet and asking our residence lab coordinators, hall directors for pictures of events that have occurred with faculty and displaying them during the PowerPoint banquet slideshow is huge for them. They love to be spotlighted that way. So, and yes, you're all talking to the best of the best, because these were our nominees, and you have a winner here. So that just reminded me that's a very simple and free, for lack of a better word, incentive to recognize them and like reward them for all the work that they do throughout the year. Thank you.
Yep, truth, Neldy, because I am very competitive. I didn't mention this earlier, so I am definitely going to be aiming to get that next year.
Yeah, it's an incentive, it's a friendly competition. But as Neldy mentioned, I just want to echo, you do have the best of the best here. And so if you have any questions, these are the folks you want to answer them. So please drop your questions in the chat. And while you're thinking about your thoughtful questions, we will move on. Neldy kind of touched upon this, but I want to give the opportunity to expand. What models or theories do you use to guide your living learning or academic initiatives program?
I'll get us started, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Searles. So I'm going to talk big picture. I'm kind of going to use language in a training format for those of you that are on the call looking to see how you want to either build your program or revamp it. So on a large scale perspective, we do use Dr. Karen Inkles, INKELAS, model for living learning community programs. She's out of the University of Virginia, her research, and she conducted the 2007 National Study on Living Learning Programs. So I really recommend that if you're looking to revamp or it's the first time you're starting a living learning community and you want to understand faculty engagement within that context, she has a whole chapter on academic collaborations and provides some really good strategies. So that is the model that we use. That is our theoretical framework regarding the living learning program. When it comes to academic initiatives, if you are not in a role as mine where you are a director of this program, you really want to connect with assistant directors or associate directors in your unit who are also representing your department at other tables at the university. The reason I share this is because one of the opportunities that I have is to serve as a member of what we call our persistence team at USF. This team is charged with triaging any student concerns that may present a barrier to their retention and graduation at the university. The reason I love being part of that team is because I have access to very specific data that then allows me to inform my academic initiatives program and the work that we do collectively. An example of this, 3 years ago, we started seeing a trend that out-of-state students were not performing as well as in-state students here at USF. So given that attrition data, we talked about in residential education, and we decided we wanted to do the first ever out-of-state student social in partnership with 2 organizations on our campus. New Student Connections, which is the office that connects FTICs to the university and transfer students, and also ACE, which is an academic cultural enhancement program. And they actively recruit students to come into USF from out of state and take them on a retreat throughout the summer before the fall semester starts. So I did some outreach to those 3 offices, and for the first time, we came together and hosted an out-of-state student social. The buy-in for the university was that we could connect the impact and learning outcomes of the event to specific goals around retention and persistence of out-of-state students. So one of the frameworks that we utilize is to be a data-driven department. So a big part of academic initiatives should be assessment. And if that's something that you're looking to promote within your department or you're already doing, but it doesn't live with AI work or residential curriculum work or living learning community work, I really suggest that you look at who's doing assessment in your department and what data could they provide. So in short, data-driven pieces. We also use the NSE, the National Survey for Student Engagement. We look at that data, and in the past, I've used graduating senior data. And for everyone on the call, one of the drives for our faculty programming here is that every single year, if you look at the National Exit Survey of college seniors, if you ask college seniors what would be the most impactful part of their experience, time and time again, the largest percentage is a relationship with a faculty member. And knowing faculty and student engagement as a high impact practice should be the underlying base of whether it's a programming model, residential curriculum, or living learning community program.
I think for me, I'm gonna mention two things. So first thing that I'll say is that I really appreciate the work that Housing and Residential Education does with regards to the residential curriculum, because it is a completely different model than my experience as an undergrad over a decade ago. It was just a housing model. Like, we didn't have an educational component. And so within the curriculum, I don't know if different places have it, I think that it just does a phenomenal job of aligning the student learning outcomes with like the different activities that the RAs or the RLCs or ARLCs are going to be doing. And then we have, as faculty members or academic partners, a roadmap as to how we can contribute to helping students reach these learning objectives. And oftentimes there are learning objectives that, in some ways, especially if you teach in any kind of area that is social justice related, like women's and gender studies, but a lot of times there's overlap there that kind of helps to reinforce a lot of the things that we're doing in the classroom already, so I can appreciate that. But for me, some of the theory that guide who I am in my pedagogy would be queer of color critique, Black feminisms, Black feminist epistemology, specifically womanist theory. And with those, I think that those values that influence the way that I approach teaching include, viewing students as co-constructors of knowledge, addressing my positionality, their positionality, addressing our different points of privilege, authenticity and voice, and these types of values, social justice, of course, that students get to see on display regardless of when and how they encounter me. So I use those as vehicles to help me reach whatever learning objective I'm trying to meet, whether it's in the classroom or in the online space, or whether it's in the residential setting. My goal as a professor is to make sure that whenever students encounter me, again, in whatever space, they get a very similar experience of who Dr. Searles is. And all of that's kind of guided by those theories. So, yeah.
Yeah, so with working with housing, with what Neldy mentioned earlier, a lot of that really helped in my position with the living learning community. My background's in education and student affairs, so a theory that I really work with all the time with advising, teaching, and working with the living learning community is the transition theory, Schlossberg's transition theory. With my living learning community, it's for first-year freshmen coming in, so a lot of them coming from high school, from different environments. So really seeing where they're at and working with them and really helping them. They all have different needs. They come from different backgrounds and areas of the state, out of state, or even internationally. So working with them on their transition as a college student, just in general, is very helpful. And I use that with advising and teaching too, just because everyone's different, every student's different, and learning about their backgrounds and how their transition's going really does help.
Yeah, thank you all. I think that that's a common language, right, between student affairs professionals, student success professionals, and faculty is like, what is your pedagogy? What are the models or theories that back your work, and how do those align with the values of your institution and your department? So it's definitely a good icebreaker conversation. Again, if you have questions for any of our lovely panelists, please drop them. But moving along, consider discussing innovative measures you have implemented to engage faculty and campus partners. What made them unique? How can this strategy be reimagined at a different institution? Or maybe reimagined during COVID-19?
I'm going to put Anthony on the spot because he's done a great job bringing faculty in for his Live and Learning community. So maybe share with us your collaborations with Dr. Fields, your approach, and give us some insight on what that has been, Anthony.
Yeah, so at USF, we have a chemistry faculty member, Dr. Fields, and she wanted to, really work with our community. So we were able to put on an event together called, the chemistry of ice cream. So going behind the scenes about how to make ice cream, testing the students on some of the different terms that they're learning in classes. And that was probably one of the student favorite events that they really enjoyed the most. And also too, she teaches organic chemistry. So the first year students are either in chemistry 1 or 2, and they get to meet the instructor that they might just have their next year. So that was a good experience. Also in my area, we're fortunate to have a faculty member, Dr. Melvin James, and he comes in and he has a background in test taking. So a big thing with getting into medical school or any health professional school is doing well in the MCAT, the GRE, or any of the other admissions tests. So he was able to put on a workshop to go behind the scenes of like how tests are made and how one should think when looking into taking the MCAT and preparing successfully. So the relationships are important. I've been at USF 7 years, and it really helped me to get faculty on board with really saying, what are you looking for in an experience? What's something new? What's something that you would like to share with our students? And that's how I've been able to really get faculty on board to provide them that new experience that they don't always get to have in the classroom setting.
So some of the pieces for innovation that I'll talk about, let's go back to just even faculty recruitment. One of the things that you can all consider is creating visual representations of your faculty program, or if you don't have one and you want to build one, create a visual representation of what residential education looks like on your campus and how it supports academic success. So going back to that data piece, one of the things that we do is we create a lot of infographics. So one of the innovative pieces that I've done is when I'm recruiting faculty for our programs, I normally invite them to lunch or coffee. I remember I went to lunch with Dr. Searles. And I try to bring 1 or 2 handouts that highlight the program that I'm inviting them to participate in. And when I say program, I don't mean an event. In this case, I was recruiting her for the faculty in residence position because she was referred and had already been working with our department with one of our colleagues, David Hibbler, who's our associate director. So I recommend, in terms of innovation or strategies, bring something with you that can visually represent the work that you're doing and use that to talk through what is it that you want the faculty member to be a part of. And at times we forget that, like we show up to coffee, and when you think about the day-to-day faculty member, yes, they want to be there to chat with you and meet you, but ultimately they want to know what is it that you're asking of me and how much time do I need to dedicate to that. So one of the innovative things that we did was in our brochure, we created a space for our faculty that says in 30 minutes, in 60 minutes, in over an hour, this is how you can engage with our department. And that's a great way to bring a faculty in, because some of them will tell you, I want to do this as a one-time thing, or I want to stay connected the entire year. However, I can go to a monthly or weekly meeting. So providing them tangible perspective on what the demand is going to be, it's a huge perspective with recruitment that has been innovative for us. The other piece of innovation is during COVID-19, we transitioned to something called Bulls in the Cloud. For those of you that have been coming to our series the past 3 weeks, you've heard a lot about it. And Bulls in the Cloud is our virtual Canvas page for all residential students at USF. So one idea that I had was to create something called Faculty Hour, TEA. And I invited faculty to join us once a week in the afternoon to discuss or unpack a topic at hand. We invited residential students to participate. They were all over Zoom video or Microsoft Teams. And I would just provide a particular script for what we're going to talk about with questions ahead of time. And I wanted to connect them to passion areas. So the very first one that we did, and it was innovative in the sense that it was creating a virtual space for students to engage with faculty in a time of social distancing. We had never done anything like that. So I invited two of our faculty members, Dr. Pirtle, who's listening in. Thank you for being with us. And Dr. Pirtle is a really well-recognized and admired faculty member at the university. He's been here, I believe, 12 years in mechanical engineering. And then Dr. Michael Cross from the Honors College, who's also director of undergraduate research. And the approach that I took was knowing Dr. Pirtle, he's big on stress management and self-care and well-being. And Dr. Cross, he loves to bake and do things to kind of get his mind off the day-to-day. I wanted them to introduce us to self-care practices during social distancing because they're really great at it. So we would just meet every Wednesday, I believe it was, at 4 o'clock, 3 or 4 o'clock, and we did this faculty hour. So that was pretty innovative. Dr. Searles also participated in one where we talked about considering grad school and the PhD, and it's been great. So just thinking, one thing that I suggest is like, what is it that you're passionate about? And how can you have fun either at an event or at a topic? Like Anthony has done so many events, and I don't directly work with Rising Health Professionals. I do work directly with Stonewall, but I love ice cream. So I was there and actually beat him. My ice cream came out better than his. I was there with Dr. Fields making ice cream. So to be innovative, you don't have to pull something out of the air. Just think about what you enjoy. And I guarantee you, someone around the table has a shared passion. So that's what I would suggest. Dr. Searles, did you want to add to that? I do see we have another question in the chat that I want to make sure we get to, but feel free to add to this topic.
I don't have much to add to the topic that you all haven't already said, but what I will go back to is what y'all said earlier about the importance of relationship building and community building, because I don't really consider myself that much of an innovative person, but I do know that if housing and residential education, or NLD specifically, asks me to do something, then I'm going to do whatever is in my power to do it if I can, because they're such great people to work with. So when you have folk and you poured into them and you've started to build those relationships over the course of years or months or however long, then it would be easier for them to get on board with it. And I still remain impressed that you all were able to pull off Bulls in the Cloud, because I just, like, it was phenomenal. I didn't even know. It was like, oh my God, these people are brilliant. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's a big tribute to NELD's onboarding and training with all of the residence life coordinators. We're figuring out what those passion areas are early on and having those critical conversations in those training spaces, so that we're not only figuring out what are you good at and where do you see yourself in Res Ed, but also getting to know a little bit more about our faculty members and our faculty fellows who support our students and tapping on them for opportunities that make sense and align with their goals. So I think that's a huge success worth mentioning. I do see Michael Stokes in our comments asking about what academic advising initiatives are in the halls. I don't know if Anthony wants to start as a academic advisor for pre-health.
Yeah, so with our living learning community, I'll talk about that first. And then we already mentioned house calls a little earlier. I know that's how I really first got introduced to housing, faculty and staff, having a nice dinner and then meeting with the students in the residence halls, either in a panel setup or going door to door, or just, you know, setting up in an area, in a common area, and then just talking to students. So that's where I was first exposed to it. But now with the living learning community, I teach a course, a university experience related course that's just specific to the LLC students. And through that LLC class, we go over different advising techniques, workshops to prepare for registering for classes. In addition to that, I offer in-hall advising at least twice a semester when students are about to register, so they can have a good idea of what to register for. And then just with the connections I've made with other advisors, I've been able to actually bring some advisors in from other major areas to talk to certain students. Maybe the students weren't able to have availability during the day, but the advisor was able to come in at night and talk to the student if they had any concerns with classes. So those are a few of the things that I've been a part of, and that what we do here at USF when it comes to academic advising initiatives.
One thing that I wanted to highlight, and Anthony has participated in this, is we started maybe 4 years ago thinking about how to best support summer B residents at our institution. And traditionally, although the academic profile is shifting, in the state of Florida, summer B admits tend to be students that have either really strong GPAs and just lower SAT scores, or vice versa. So we came together to host in-hall academic advising fairs during the summer B term as a passive resource. So that's a really easy academic advising initiative that you can pull together if you already know what your summer B FTAC, first time in college student enrollment, looks like. So USF is a big research institution, and it pulls a lot of students looking to go to medical school. So when we were doing the Summer B Academic Advising Fair, we knew we needed academic advisors from the health sciences and biomedical sciences. And that was my first introduction to Anthony, where I invited him to be part of our academic fair. So really easy to do. If you have these connections, you reach out to academic departments that reflect your FTIC population. For us, it was anybody in the College of Arts and Sciences for our hard sciences, College of Engineering, and the MUMA College of Business. So we took over our summer B residence hall lobby, set up every single academic advisor at a table, told them what they could bring to pass out. We provided, every year we had switched it up. 1 year we provided academic toolkits. We just filled Ziploc bags with index cards, some chocolate, and highlighters. And students could come grab one of those bags while they spoke to the advisors. Some advisors bring their actual laptops and do either hold removals on the spot, or just do a quick overview of what the student's curriculum plan is going to be for that particular major. And other advisors want to come through, and we promote it to any returning student that's living with us in the summer who may be seeking a major change or looking to explore career pathways. So the program has grown. Sometimes we've brought in career services to talk more about career planning over the summer for upperclassmen, but that's a really easy and low-level passive academic advising initiative that you can consider. So Michael, I hope that was helpful to you. Thank you.
One other quick thing I'll add is that prior to becoming a faculty member, I also worked as an academic advisor, and I'm currently the undergraduate director in the Department of Women's and Gender Studies, which does a lot with curriculum and curriculum changes. We're going through a whole new Gen Ed revision process right now. And so while I'm not formally an academic advisor anymore, if students have general questions about, well, which course will satisfy my capstone, or are we still having writing intensive courses, those are kind of questions that I can still answer. And I also have office hours in our residence hall. And this past spring, before COVID hit, I had changed those hours from during the day, they used to be around 1 or 2 p.m. to later in the evening from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. because I was already living on campus, and I saw a great return in terms of students coming by just to say hey or ask questions. So I think that even though it's not formal academic advising, being able to kind of answer a question here or there helps out too.
Add some. So I think that's another benefit of having students a part of an LLC. With advising, I know at big universities like ours, it's a little more challenging to get an appointment because there's a lot of students and less advisors. So having this LLC with the 30 students, we're able to give them more of that personal attention and answer their questions even quicker. So I think that's something that's a good benefit to have these kind of initiatives, especially at universities like ours where there's a lot of students and it might be a little more difficult to get an appointment right away. So I think that's something that's that's great about like what we're able to do with these initiatives.
Absolutely. I hear students in my office all the time who are like, I can't get in with my advisor and there's no appointments for another 2 weeks. So there's definitely added benefit when they're right in your hall. We have one final question. I think it's a great wrap-up question. How have you garnered buy-in and sustained interest in your programs with faculty and campus partners? So we heard a lot about the ways in which we recruit and we train, but what keeps y'all here? What about it is keeping you coming back every year?
One thing I would recommend if you have the opportunity, I've actually been able to bring faculty with us to some of our conferences. And also I'm a big advocate of sponsoring professional development for faculty that are committed to our program if you have the funds to allow. So I believe it was in 2016 at the Akuhoa Academic Initiatives Drive-In, we presented a version of this workshop on faculty collaborations, and I brought one of our faculty in residence with us, and it was impressive for him to see housing residential education as a profession of experts and scholar practitioners. And it was impressive for our profession to engage with the faculty members so intimately. So for those of you that are aware of the AI conference, it's much smaller than the traditional Kuhoai. So a lot of our colleagues were really connecting with our faculty member and asking some of these questions ahead of time. I've also invited our faculty to participate in webinars that come out nationally, both through NASPA and ACPA. And we also have a resource, academic resource newsletter called Resourceable. And every single newsletter, we do a faculty spotlight, and our faculty love that. Next year, I hope to send Dr. Searles to the Institute on the Curricular Approach. I've already told her, and I'm slated to present at this year's AI conference, if it still happens, in New Orleans, with our faculty in residence, Dr. Makut Madawal from the College of Public Health. So if those are huge incentives because you're contributing to their own professional development. We also sent Lindsay Williams, who was on the webinar last week. She's our partner and assistant director for undergraduate advising in the College of Education, to the Institute of the Curricular Approach. So any opportunities that you have, you know, if it's something where the faculty just has to pay their flight and you're able to host them in a hotel room, that's a good way to share the expense. Some of these conferences do a one-day registration, which is much cheaper than the entire registration. You can consider that. And lastly, something that has really like humbled me and made me appreciate my faculty is sometimes my faculty ask for recommendation letters, which I never imagined. I've had faculty that have transitioned out of USF, whether they didn't get tenure or they got tenure at a different institution or needed to move for whatever reason, and they've come to me to do letters of recommendation, which I'm like, what? But they appreciated it. And it kind of talks about the value that residential education has on our campus and how some of our faculty use this as part of their service hours if they are on the tenure track at the university.
Absolutely. The only other thing I'll add is figure out how you can build the pipeline and what role different people play within the pipeline, because housing and residential education at USF is such a phenomenal department that I'm always thinking about, well, who would be a good fit, or who can I invite to maybe be a faculty fellow or do a house call, or maybe even eventually do faculty in residence, because it's such a good program that a lot of people don't know what we do in housing and residential education. They still think that it's antiquated from back when they were in school, but it's totally different. And that building the pipeline goes to what we were saying earlier in terms of continuing to build the community. So I think that's the main thing that keeps me around, is that community feel.
Yeah, I think initially with trying to find faculty that are interested, because there's going to be some that don't reply or some that are just too busy doing other things like with their research or with other teaching. So first it's finding who's interested, and then from there it's continuing that relationship, following up, seeing if there's ways that you can help them, if they need someone for research or a program that they're putting on, and then just really it's a two-way street, you know. They're helping you, you're helping them, helping each other. So that's something I try to really reiterate each semester, is by just staying in touch, not just only being in touch that one time I have the one event, is just seeing how they're doing and really following up. And for me, that's the biggest thing, is just the relationship part of it and keeping that going. And so far I've had pretty good luck with being able to have faculty continue to be on board for different events, I think, for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Lindsay commented that she is grateful for her experience to go to the Institute. She was always supported the work done by Neldy and our team, but gaining the additional knowledge at that Institute was a tremendous experience. And we have fun. So that's it for our formal questions. Before I wrap up, is there anything that anyone else would like to leave with our guests? You could give me a thumbs up if you're good.
I'd like to say one thing, Nicole. I saw a few people from HBCUs in the chat, so if y'all are still there, hey, because I went to 2 HBCUs, so I just wanted to do a shout out. I think I saw Grambling and Tennessee State University, so thank y'all. Hey, Spellman.
Yes, I noticed that too. Thank you for everyone joining us. As I shared at the last webinar in the chat, if you want to reach out to my team, you can email livinglearning@usf.edu. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. At times, give us some time because we are navigating the day-to-day, but we do invite everyone to join us. Our next one is in 2 weeks on July 1st. It's gonna wrap up our series, and it's gonna be focused on assessment. So any questions that may come up from this one or the ones that we had, more than happy to share with all of you. And thank you again. And I want to say a special shout out to Hannah, who was one of my grad students at Nova a few years ago. And she is rocking it at Lynn University. She's been supporting the series and tags me on Instagram every week. So thank you, Hannah, for being with us, and everyone else. We really appreciate you. Where are we on time? We're right at 4 o'clock, so. Go ahead, Nicole, take it away.
Well, thank you everyone for your thoughtful contributions and engagement today. We appreciate you being here with us. A special thank you to Anthony, Dr. Searles, and Neldy for their time today and their insights. And of course to RoomPact, who made this webinar possible. You can find out more information about the upcoming presentations Neldy mentioned, the presenters themselves, and the rest of the remaining series and the ones that you may have missed in the link that I'm dropping in the chat now. So thank you all again for being here, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Dr. Searles and Anthony.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, thanks everybody.